The words, "Effective next month, your rent will be $6,800, hung in the air like a guillotine blade. My sister Olivia's perfectly manicured finger tapped the new lease agreement as she slid it across Grandma's antique coffee table toward me. The family gathering froze. 15 relatives suddenly motionless in the lavender-scented living room of Grandma's house, where we'd gathered for our monthly family business meeting. A tradition we maintained even after her passing 2 years ago. My lungs seized. The amount represented triple what I'd been paying, a sentence disguised as a business decision. I watched Olivia's lips curl into that familiar smile, the one she'd perfected at Harvard Law, the one that said she was simply being practical while doing something cruel. The same smile she'd worn when she told me my college choice was adorable. The same smile she had when she explained to our cousins that my career was just property management, like I was playing with dollhouses instead of analyzing real estate markets. The room's temperature seemed to plummet as relatives shifted in their seats. No one spoke. No one defended me. Just the tick-tick-tick of Grandma's mantel clock marking the seconds of my public humiliation. My name is Morgan. I'm 32 and a property management specialist. This is the story of how I reclaimed my family's respect after years of calculated belittlement. Growing up as Olivia's younger sister meant living with constant comparison. She was the golden child. Harvard Law, summa cum laude, making partner at 35 at a prestigious firm. I attended State University, earned my property management degree, and became an assistant manager at a mid-sized firm. Every family gathering followed the same script. Olivia just closed a $10 million merger, Uncle Nate would announce. Then, inevitably, Aunt Rebecca would turn to me with that sympathetic head tilt. "And Morgan, you're still at that property thing?" For 5 years, I'd rented a 2-bedroom in Riverside Drive, one of Grandma's buildings that Olivia managed pro bono as she reminded us at every opportunity. She'd set my rent at $2,200, calling it a family discount, though market rate was only $2,400. Still, she never let me forget her generosity. "Most people in your salary range couldn't afford this neighborhood," she'd say with that patronizing smile. I paid on time every month, even when the dishwasher remained broken for months, even during the winter when the heating failed. I never complained because complaining meant confirming I was the lesser sister, the one who should be grateful for scraps. But 3 years ago, everything changed in a way Olivia never suspected. When Grandma was still alive, I helped organize her finances every Sunday. She was sharp even in her 80s, but she trusted me to explain her investment statements and organize her records. One evening, she pressed a business card into my palm. "Your sister means well," she whispered, her paper-thin skin warm against mine. "But she doesn't see everything. Sometimes the quiet ones are the smartest. Remember that when the time comes." I didn't understand then, but 6 months after her passing, her personal lawyer, Mr. Bennett, not the family attorney Olivia used, contacted me. Grandma had left something for me outside the main estate, a private inheritance of $200,000, enough for a strategic investment that would change everything. Now, in Grandma's living room, Olivia stood tall, pen extended toward me, legal pad filled with graphs and market comparisons. "Your current rent is $2,200, far below market," she announced, clicking through color-printed charts that she'd prepared for this ambush. "Comparable units are going for at least $6,800. I've been subsidizing your lifestyle for 5 years. That's $240,000 out of my pocket." Aunt Rebecca gasped like Olivia had donated a kidney. "Olivia, you're such a saint." My sister's smile widened, the kind that demanded applause. "I don't want praise. I just want fairness." She turned to me, voice hardening. "Morgan, you're 32 now. It's time to learn to stand on your own feet. Effective next month, your rent will be $6,800. The silence was suffocating. 15 faces watched, waiting for someone, anyone, to defend me. No one did. Not after 5 years of paying on time, not after helping Grandma with her books while Olivia was too busy. Nothing. She extended the lease across the table. "I'll need this signed today." I stared at the paper, then at my phone where a text sent 20 minutes earlier had already received a response. On my way. Documents ready. I had arranged for Mr. Lucas to arrive at 8 p.m., knowing Olivia would make her move during tonight's meeting. Through my position at the property management firm, I had learned about the Columbia Law students' applications from a colleague who managed nearby buildings, which gave me the perfect timing to spring my own revelation. Olivia mistook my silence for surrender. "Let me make this educational for everyone," she said, pulling up Zillow listings. "Here's what Morgan's apartment should cost. $7,200, $7,500, $8,100. I'm actually giving her a discount at $6,800. My phone buzzed. 15 minutes out. Uncle Nate cleared his throat. "Olivia, that's quite a jump." "It's market rate." She cut him off. "Successful people pay market rate. Morgan works in property management. She should understand this better than anyone." Laughter rippled across the room. My cousin Dylan smirked. "Guess you'll need 3 roommates." Every word dug deeper, every smirk another reminder of the role they thought I would never escape. Mediocre, dependent, failing. Olivia leaned closer, her voice dripping with condescension. "Sign the lease, Morgan, or start packing. I've already got 3 applications from Columbia Law students. They're offering $7,000. The threat hung heavy in the air, and I almost smiled because Olivia didn't know the truth. She didn't know that the building she thought she controlled, the one she used to lord over me, was mine. 3 years ago, with Grandma's gift of $200,000, my savings of $50,000, and a business loan secured through contacts at my firm, I'd purchased the building through a holding company named Riverside Holdings, LLC. I had used Grandma's personal lawyer, Mr. Bennett, to structure the purchase so that all records would show only the company name, not mine. I maintained my job at the property management firm while quietly managing my own building on the side, ensuring that all renovations and paperwork were processed through third parties that Olivia never interacted with. Every legal paper, every renovation, every rent check flowed through me. And today, with the whole family watching, she was about to find out. I held the lease, tracing the bold numbers with my finger. $6,800, as if studying some cruel joke written in ink. My heart thudded once, hard, but my face revealed nothing. Years of being underestimated had trained me well in the art of stillness. Olivia smirked, mistaking my silence for defeat. "Good. You're finally learning to listen. Sign, and this will all be behind us." The weight of her arrogance filled the room. My mother shifted in her chair but said nothing. My father stared at his hands. No one stood for me, not one person. Yet I didn't feel small anymore. I felt steady. I placed the pen down. "No." The word was soft, but it cut sharper than a knife. Heads turned. Aunt Rebecca gasped. Olivia froze, her smile faltering for the first time all evening. "What do you mean, no?" she demanded, voice rising with indignation. "I mean," I said slowly, meeting her gaze, "you don't have the authority to raise my rent." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. My pulse quickened, not with fear, but with the thrill of what was about to unfold. Olivia huffed. Who could that be? I stood, walking calmly to the door. When I opened it, a man in a charcoal suit stepped in, leather briefcase in hand. "Good evening, Ms. Reynolds," he said formally, following our rehearsed plan. I ushered him into the living room where the family was gathered. He nodded to me, then addressed the room with practiced professionalism. "Good evening. I'm Mr. Lucas, representing Riverside Holdings, LLC. I have documents for the tenants of this building." The air shifted, confusion rippled across the room. Olivia frowned. "Tenants? What is this? I manage this property." Mr. Lucas adjusted his glasses. "Not anymore. Riverside Holdings purchased this building 3 years ago. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owner." Olivia's face drained of color. "That's impossible. I would have known." I stepped forward, voice steady but loud enough for every single relative to hear. You didn't know because you never bothered to ask. You were too busy lecturing me about how to stand on my own feet, too busy humiliating me at every opportunity. But while you were climbing your ladder, I was building my foundation. Whispers erupted. Cousin Dylan muttered, "Wait, what?" My mother's eyes widened. Olivia turned to me, fury breaking through her shock. "You're lying!" Mr. Lucas opened his briefcase and placed a thick stack of documents on the coffee table. Title deeds, tax receipts, renovation permits, all signed by me. "Morgan Reynolds," he said clearly, "is the sole owner of this building." The room went silent. Even the ticking clock seemed to pause. Olivia stumbled backward, her face ashen, her composure crumbling. "No, this can't be." I looked her straight in the eye. "You tried to triple my rent on a building that doesn't even belong to you. You tried to evict me from my own property, and you did it in front of everyone thinking you'd embarrass me. But tonight you embarrassed yourself." The silence shattered with a dozen reactions. Aunt Rebecca whispered, "Oh my God." My father cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. My mother's lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came. Olivia shook her head violently. "This isn't fair. You tricked me. You quote." "No, Olivia." I cut in, my voice firmer now. "I didn't trick you. I just stopped letting you trick me." She opened her mouth, but no sound emerged. The power she had wielded so casually, so cruelly, had slipped from her fingers in an instant. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the overlooked sister. I wasn't the underachiever, the charity case, the one who needed handouts. I was the one holding the deed. And as Olivia's face turned pale in front of 15 stunned relatives, I felt the weight of years of humiliation lift off me like smoke, clearing after a fire. Olivia's mouth opened and closed like she was drowning in air, desperate for something to grasp. The relatives who once nodded along with her lectures now shifted in their seats, suddenly uncomfortable with their silence, their complicity. No one rushed to defend her. No one dared. "You can't do this," she stammered finally, her voice trembling in a way I'd never heard before. "You can't just take everything from me." I tilted my head, calm in a way that only comes after years of swallowing pain. "I didn't take anything from you, Olivia. You never had it to begin with." Her face twisted. "But Grandma left me in charge. She trusted me." "She trusted you to manage, not to own," I replied. "She trusted me with something bigger, and while you were busy performing for everyone, I was listening to her." Mr. Lucas cleared his throat politely, adjusting his papers. "If I may," he said, glancing around the room. "Ms. Morgan Reynolds has been the legal owner since the purchase 3 years ago. Every tenant in this building pays rent directly to her holding company, including, technically." He paused, his eyes flicking toward Olivia. "Your unit." The gasp that erupted from the room was sharp, almost theatrical. My sister staggered back as though struck. "My unit?" she repeated, horrified. I folded my arms, the years of humiliation sharpening my words into steel. "Yes, Olivia. You raised my rent in a building where you're the tenant. Do you understand now?" Aunt Rebecca whispered. "Oh, my heavens." While Uncle Nate muttered something about karma, Cousin Dylan, for once, kept his smirk to himself. Olivia's composure cracked entirely. "This isn't possible. I won't pay you a cent. You'll pay or you'll leave." I cut her off, my voice steady but firm. "The same choice you so gleefully gave me." She looked around the room for support, but none came. My parents sat frozen. My mother's hand gripped her wine glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. My father's jaw worked as though he wanted to speak, but no words came. For the first time, they couldn't shield her. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear, though I knew the entire room was listening. "You thought you could crush me. You thought you could humiliate me. But here's the truth, Olivia. While you were busy trying to climb above me, I was already standing higher than you knew." Her lips trembled. "You're cruel." No, I whispered back. I'm finally done being your victim. The words settled over the room like a gavel striking. Final, unquestionable. Mr. Lucas closed his briefcase with a snap. That concludes my business for tonight. Good evening. He shook my hand, nodded to the stunned audience, and left. The silence that followed was deafening. Olivia collapsed back into her chair, her once perfect posture broken, her eyes glassy. I turned, walking to the door, the weight of 15 years of belittlement finally sliding off my shoulders. I didn't need applause. I didn't need their approval. The look on my sister's pale face, the silence of those who once joined in her laughter was enough. As I stepped outside onto the sidewalk in front of the building, leaving the stunned silence behind me, I realized something profound. Revenge hadn't been my plan. Survival had. But sometimes survival becomes its own form of justice. The night air was cool against my skin, carrying the faint smell of rain that hadn't yet fallen. I stood on the sidewalk looking up at the windows of the building that was mine, the building where my sister had tried to turn me into a tenant she could crush under her heel. For the first time, I didn't feel small when I looked at it. I felt steady, rooted, powerful inside. Voices were still murmuring inside. I imagined the relatives shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, replaying the moment when Olivia's mask had cracked, when her smugness had turned to shock. I imagined them whispering in kitchens tomorrow, telling their friends, "We never knew Morgan had it in her." And that was fine. Let them talk. For once, the story wouldn't be about how Olivia saved me. It would be about how I saved myself. Over the next few weeks, as I continued managing my building while maintaining my position at the property management firm, the fallout came fast. Olivia avoided me at first, retreating into silence. But then the calls started, pleading ones at odd hours, her voice trembling in ways that were once unthinkable. "Can we work something out?" she begged one night. "You can't really expect me to pay rent to you. I'm your sister." I almost laughed. Sister? The same sister who spent years using that word as a weapon, reminding me I was the lesser one, the weaker one. Now you say it like a shield, fragile and thin. "You raised my rent to $6,800 without blinking," I reminded her calmly. "Why should I treat you differently?" Her silence on the line was answer enough. Then came my parents. My mother called, her voice brittle and cold. "You've humiliated your sister. Do you know what you've done to this family's reputation?" I let her words hang in the air before answering. "Do you know what you did to me? All those years you stood by while she belittled me, while she treated me like a burden instead of blood. You didn't care about reputation then. You cared about appearances. And now the appearance is simply the truth." She hung up on me, but I didn't cry. I didn't crumble the way I would have years ago. Instead, I leaned into the rhythm of my new life. I managed my tenants with care. I reinvested, upgraded the building, painted the halls in warm colors that reminded me of Grandma's touch. And when neighbors stopped me to thank me for fixing things Olivia had neglected, I felt pride swell in my chest. One evening, as I was locking up the lobby, I saw Olivia standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, face pale under the streetlight. She didn't speak at first, just looked at me like she was searching for the sister who used to shrink when she raised her voice. Finally, she whispered, "You've changed." I met her gaze without flinching. "No, Olivia, I've just stopped letting you control the story." She blinked as though the words pierced her deeper than anger ever could. She opened her mouth to argue, to fight, but nothing came out. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement, fading into the night. I stood there for a long moment, breathing in the quiet. For the first time in years, I felt free, not just from her, but from the weight of needing her approval. My life was mine now, built brick by brick, deed by deed, choice by choice. And that freedom was worth more than any revenge. It was justice, and it was mine. 2 months after the revelation, Olivia moved out of the building and into a downtown condo. Our relationship remained strained, with only occasional text messages on holidays. My parents eventually came around, my father calling first to apologize for his silence over the years. My mother took longer, but 6 months later invited me to lunch, where she admitted her favoritism had been wrong. The extended family now treats me with a newfound respect at our gatherings, which we still hold monthly, though in a different venue, the community room of my building. As for my career, I still maintain my position at the property management firm, where I've since been promoted to senior manager, applying the lessons I've learned from both my formal education and my hands-on experience with my own building. Some of my colleagues now consult with me on investment strategies, and I'm considering expanding my portfolio with a second property next year. If this story touched you, I hope you take this with you. You are not defined by the voices that underestimate you. You are not bound to the roles others force on you. Sometimes the greatest power you'll ever claim is the courage to own your story and to stand tall in it, no matter who tries to cut you down. If you felt something in my journey, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories of resilience, betrayal, and quiet victories. And please leave your story in the comments. I'd love to know how you found your own strength. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. The frame slipped from my mother's hands, clattering to the hardwood floor. She didn't even bother to pick it up. My 8-year-old son, Owen's carefully crafted gift, a handmade picture frame he'd spent weeks painting blue and decorating with tiny seashells we'd collected together, lay discarded like trash, while everyone's attention immediately shifted back to my niece. "Emma, show Grandma what you got from Santa," my sister Rachel encouraged, as if my son hadn't just been standing there, his small shoulders slumping and eyes filling with tears. The Christmas music playing through my parents' expensive sound system suddenly felt deafening. The beautiful tree with its color-coordinated ornaments, the perfectly arranged presents beneath it, the elegant decorations throughout the house, it all blurred as I watched my son struggle to hide his disappointment. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th time. But something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally snapped. My name is Violet. I'm 27 and a single mom. This is the story of how I burned bridges to build something better. For 8 years, I'd watched my family systematically diminish my son. The pattern had been established from the moment I announced my pregnancy at 19. Unplanned, unwed, with a boyfriend who disappeared at the first mention of responsibility. I was the disappointment, the cautionary tale, the black sheep who'd thrown her life away, while my older sister Rachel had done everything right. She went to college, married an investment banker, had 2 perfectly spaced children, and bought a house in the suburbs. My younger brother Jared had followed my father into law. And then there was me, the family failure. What had begun as disapproval of my life choices had morphed over time into something uglier, something that now targeted my innocent child. My mother's backhanded compliments, my father's lectures about financial responsibility while he lavished gifts on my sister's children, the not-so-subtle comparisons at every family gathering. I'd tried to shield Owen from it, making excuses for forgotten birthdays and excluded invitations. "Grandpa was probably busy," I'd explain when he didn't show up to Owen's soccer games. Grandma must have mixed up the dates when his school performance wasn't attended, all while watching my parents rearrange their schedules for my niece and nephew's events. Just yesterday, I'd received a text from Rachel. "Mom wants to know what Owen wants for Christmas. She's already finished shopping for the others." It was December 23rd. The annual family Christmas gathering was today, and she was just now asking about Owen's gift. As I watched my son's gift lying neglected on the floor, I felt a surge of rage that burned away years of compliance. "Mom," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "Owen spent weeks making that frame for you. Don't you have anything to say about it?" The room fell silent. My mother looked at me with surprise, as if a piece of furniture had suddenly spoken. "It's very nice," she said dismissively. "Now Emma was telling me—" "No," I interrupted, standing up. "Not this time. Owen, go get your coat, please." "But Mom," he started. Now, sweetheart. When he'd left the room, I turned to face my family. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice remained calm. For years, I've watched you treat my son like he's less important than everyone else in this family. I've made excuses for you, tried to shield him from it, hoped that eventually you'd see what a wonderful, kind, brilliant child he is, but you've never even tried. Violet, you're overreacting, my father said, finally putting down his newspaper. Am I? When was the last time you remembered his birthday without being reminded? When have you ever shown up to one of his school events? When have you ever shown him the same attention and love you show his cousins? Rachel scoffed. Just because we don't coddle him. Coddle him? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call basic human decency? He's a child who has done nothing wrong except be born to me instead of one of you. My mother stood, her face flushed with anger. We have always welcomed you both into our home. Welcomed. You tolerate us. There's a difference. And I'm done subjecting my son to your conditional love. I picked up the frame Owen had made, the one my mother had so carelessly discarded. He painted it blue because it's my favorite color. He glued these shells on it because we collected them together last summer. A trip none of you even knew about because none of you ever ask about our lives. He's thoughtful and observant and deserves so much better than what you've given him. Jared, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. Vi, you're making a scene. A scene? I turned to him, tears stinging my eyes. Where was this concern when Dad forgot to invite Owen to the family camping trip? Or when Mom accidentally left him off the family Christmas card? Your silence has been just as hurtful as their actions. Owen returned with his coat, his eyes wide and confused. I took his hand. We're leaving and we won't be back, I told my stunned family. Merry Christmas. The drive home was quiet. I could feel Owen watching me, processing what had happened. We had driven to my parents' house in the suburbs that morning, and now we were heading back to our apartment across town, about a 30-minute drive in the holiday traffic. I'm sorry about your frame, sweetheart, I finally said, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. It's okay, Mom, he replied softly. I can make another one. For us. His simple resilience broke my heart all over again. When we got home, I made hot chocolate and we sat under a blanket watching Christmas movies. But I could tell Owen was subdued, trying to understand the day's events. That night, after he'd gone to bed, I sat at our small kitchen table staring at my phone. The screen lit up with messages from my family. First angry, then confused. I ignored them all and instead opened my contacts to Lucas, my supervisor at the bookstore where I worked. He'd been inviting us to his family's Christmas celebration for years, and I'd always declined, feeling obligated to spend the holiday with my biological family. But not anymore. I was done with obligation, done with hoping for change, done with watching my son's heart break over and over. My thumb hovered over Lucas's name. This wasn't just about finding somewhere to spend Christmas. This was about actively choosing a different path, one where Owen would be valued, one where kindness wasn't conditional. I pressed call. Violet? Lucas answered, surprise evident in his voice. Everything okay? I was wondering if that invitation to your family Christmas is still open, I said, my voice wavering slightly. There was a pause. Of course it is. We'd love to have you both. Is something wrong? The genuine concern in his voice, concern I'd never heard from my own family when it came to Owen, brought tears to my eyes. I'll explain tomorrow. What time should we come? Christmas Day with Lucas's family was a revelation. Lucas picked us up that morning and drove us to his parents' home across town. His parents treated Owen like any other child there, with warmth, interest, and genuine affection. His mother praised Owen's manners and asked him about school. His father taught him how to play chess. Lucas's nieces and nephews included him in their games without hesitation. When it came time for presents, there was a pile waiting for Owen. Books Lucas had selected, knowing Owen's reading preferences, a science kit from his parents, hand-knitted mittens from his grandmother. The contrast to our experience with my family couldn't have been more stark. These people, who had no biological connection to us, showed more love and consideration in one day than my family had in 8 years. Meanwhile, my phone continued buzzing with messages from my family. My mother's texts evolved from indignant, "I can't believe you would embarrass us like this," to manipulative, "Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your scene." Rachel alternated between angry tirades and tearful pleas. My father attempted to lure us back with financial incentives, offering to start a college fund for Owen, something he'd done for his other grandchildren years ago. I didn't respond to any of them. This wasn't a temporary tantrum to force an apology. This was a final separation from people who had proven, time and again, that they were incapable of loving my son the way he deserved to be loved. But I wasn't done. Walking away was only the beginning. In January, I submitted my application for the bookstore's management training program, something I'd hesitated to do before, believing my family's narrative that I wasn't capable of more. With Lucas's encouragement, I was accepted, and by March, I was assistant manager with a significant raise. When Owen's birthday came around in April, I used some of my new income to plan a party at the local science museum, inviting his entire class, Lucas and his family, and neighbors who had become friends. I sent formal invitations to my parents, sister, and brother, knowing exactly what would happen. As expected, they didn't show up. But this time, Owen didn't notice their absence. He was too busy being celebrated by people who genuinely cared about him. The next day, I took carefully selected photos from the party. Owen surrounded by friends, blowing out candles on his cake, opening thoughtful gifts, and created a beautiful digital album. I shared it publicly on social media, tagging my family members and writing, "Grateful for the people who choose to be part of Owen's life and celebrate the amazing person he is becoming. Some family is born, but the best family is chosen." I knew my mother's social circle would see it. I knew my father's law partners would see it. I knew Rachel's perfect life facade would be questioned, and I wanted them to feel every bit of what they'd lost through their own choices. The fallout was immediate. My phone exploded with messages from extended family members who had only heard my parents' version of events. They had found my number through the family group chat we had all been part of for years. My mother called in tears, claiming I was deliberately trying to hurt them. My father threatened to cut me out of his will, as if that was supposed to frighten me. "You already cut Owen out of your hearts," I replied in my only response. "There's nothing else you can take from us." In May, Lucas asked me to dinner. Just me, not Owen, for the first time. He had arranged for his sister to babysit Owen at our apartment so we could have an evening to ourselves. "I've wanted to ask you out for years," he admitted over pasta, but the timing never seemed right. By summer, we were dating seriously. Lucas was everything my family couldn't understand: kind, supportive, genuinely interested in both my aspirations and Owen's development. He didn't care that I'd had a child young or that I didn't have a college degree. He saw me for who I was, not for the ways I'd failed to meet some arbitrary standard. When my parents learned about Lucas through social media, where I occasionally posted photos of our outings and activities, they attempted reconciliation again, suddenly interested in meeting this man who had changed me. I recognized their pattern immediately. They wanted to claim connection to our happiness without acknowledging how they'd contributed to our pain. I declined their invitation with a simple email. Owen and I are creating a life with people who valued us even when we had nothing to offer but ourselves. You had 8 years to be part of that life and chose not to be. That choice stands. The following Christmas, we hosted our own gathering. Our apartment was filled with people who genuinely cared about us. Lucas and his family, co-workers who had become friends, parents of Owen's classmates. As I watched Owen open thoughtfully selected gifts, his face alight with joy, surrounded by people who cherished him, I knew I'd made the right decision. The revenge wasn't in the dramatic exit or the returned gifts or the ignored calls. It wasn't even in the public social media posts that exposed their neglect. It was in this, creating a life so full of authentic love and connection that the absence of my biological family was no longer a wound but a faded scar. My parents, sister, and brother lost the privilege of watching Owen grow into the remarkable person he was becoming. They lost the joy of his laughter, the wonder of his curiosity, the warmth of his heart. Their loss, not ours. The final piece fell into place when Lucas proposed the following spring, not just to me, but to Owen as well, getting down on one knee with 2 rings, an engagement ring for me and a family medallion for Owen. "I want us to be a family," he told Owen seriously. "Not to replace your dad, but to be another person in your life who will always be there for you, who will never let you down, who will love you unconditionally." Owen's face as he accepted the medallion, solemn, joyful, secure, was worth every painful holiday, every sleepless night, every difficult decision. We married in the summer, a small ceremony in the bookstore where Lucas and I had worked together for years. His family, now our family, surrounded us with love and acceptance. Owen stood beside us as our best man, his pride evident in every carefully executed responsibility. 2 weeks after the wedding, I received a letter from Jared, the only member of my family who had eventually sent a genuine apology, acknowledging his role in enabling the family's behavior. He wrote that our parents had been devastated by the wedding photos he'd seen online, finally realizing what they'd lost. "They talk about Owen now," he wrote. "They have his school picture on their mantle. Mom keeps saying she wishes she could tell him she's sorry." I showed the letter to Lucas, who squeezed my hand in support but remained silent, letting me make my own decision. I wrote back to Jared with a single paragraph. "I'm glad they've reflected on their actions, but Owen isn't a prop they can pick up when it's convenient and discard when it's not. He's a child who deserves consistency and unconditional love. When they're ready to offer that, with actions, not words, we can discuss what a relationship might look like. Until then, we're happy with the family we've chosen." 3 years after we walked out of my parents' house, Owen gave me a Christmas gift, a new handmade picture frame, blue like the one he'd made for my mother, but larger, containing a family photo of the 3 of us, Owen, Lucas, and me. "I kept the shells from that summer," he told me as I unwrapped it, tears in my eyes. "I knew someday I'd find the right picture to put them with." That frame sits on our mantle now, surrounded by other family photos. Lucas's parents, his siblings, and their children, close friends who have become family. There are no empty spaces where my biological family should be. We have filled our lives with people who know how to love. That, I believe, is the greatest revenge of all. Not just surviving without those who hurt you, but thriving in their absence, building something beautiful from the wreckage they left behind. My son will grow up knowing his worth is not determined by people who couldn't see his light. He will understand that family is defined by love, not blood, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from those who cannot love you properly to find those who can. As for my parents, they did try to reconnect several times over the years, but I maintained firm boundaries. We did eventually permit a few carefully supervised visits after Owen turned 11, but they never regained the privilege of being significant figures in Owen's life. I made sure Owen had a say in these visits, respecting his feelings and comfort level above all else. Rachel's marriage ultimately ended in divorce when Owen was 12, and it was telling that she suddenly wanted to reconnect with me after that happened. She reached out through Jared, asking if we could meet for coffee, but I insisted any relationship would need to start with a genuine apology to Owen first. Jared did make genuine amends over time, and we now have a cautious but cordial relationship where he visits occasionally and has earned a small place in Owen's life through consistent, respectful behavior. Lucas formally adopted Owen on his 10th birthday, with Owen's enthusiastic consent. The adoption was finalized 3 months later, giving Owen the security of 2 legal parents and cementing our family bond in ways my biological family never could. Owen chose to hyphenate his last name, honoring both his birth identity and his new family connection. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. 0 cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.